Welcome to the 21st chapter of the book of Matthew. We continue now with Jesus' journey, and he goes into Jerusalem. And it begins in verse 1. Ke ote igisen is Jerusalema. And when they approached unto Jerusalem, ke ilthen is vis sphagi, and came unto Bethphage, pros to oros ton eleon, to the Mount of Olives, tote oi sus apestile theo mathitas. Then Jesus sent two disciples. We'll go to the map here, and we can see that Jerusalem is here, and Mount of Olives right next to Jerusalem. Bethphage must have been right somewhere near that. He sent the disciples, and he's saying, legon aftis, to them, porevthite is tin komin, tin apenanti imon. Go into the town before you. Ke evtheos evrisate onon dedamenin. And immediately you shall find a donkey being tied. Ke polon medaftis, and a foal with her. Lysantes agagate me, having untied, lead them to me, in the imperative. Ke eantis imin ipi, ti erite oti, o kyrios avton krian eki. And if anyone should say to you anything, you say that their master has need. Their master, it's not the real owner, of course, but the creator. I see it as the creator. That's the master, and the creator is Jesus. Ke evtheos the apostoli avtus, and immediately he sends them. Tuto they olon gegonen in aplirothi torithen thea to profitu. And this entirely came to pass, that should be fulfilled the thing having been spoken through the prophet legontes. And this is a quote of Zechariah 9:9. Ipate ti thigatri Sion. Say to the daughter of Zion, Idhu, behold, O Vasilef Su, Urkate si, your king comes to you, prais, gentle, ke epivevikos epi onon, and being mounted upon a donkey. Ke polon, and a foal, eon ipozigiu, an offspring of a beast of burden. And this is exactly what happens. And it's a fulfillment of this prophecy. Your king, the king comes. And what is his main thing? He says about him, he's gentle. Jesus is gentle, but when he returns, it's going to be different. He'll be coming in strength and power. Verse 6. Porephentus they imathi te, and the disciples having gone, ke peisantes kathos prosetaxen aftis o Isus, and having done as Jesus assigned to them, igagon tin onon, they led the donkey, ke ton polon, and the foal, ke apethikan apano avton ta imatia avton, and placed upon them their cloaks. Ke epakathisen apano avton, and he sat upon them. So here now we have this area real close to Jerusalem, and the donkey and its foal, and Jesus is now sitting on them and going in to Jerusalem. Verse 8, O they plistos oklos estrosen iavton ta imatia inti otho. And the greatest part of the multitude spread out their own cloaks in the way. Ali they ekopton klados apoton dendron ke estronion and teotho. And others beat branches from the trees and spread them out in the way. They're making way for the king. Ide okli e proagontes ke e akoluthuntes ekrazon. And the multitudes leading before and the ones following cried out, so maybe thousands of people, who knows, Legonta, saying, Hosanna to Io David, Hosanna to the Son of David. Evlogimenos o erchomenos in anomati Kyriou. Being blessed is the one coming in the name of the Lord. So here Jesus is coming, and they're yelling out Hosanna, and the children, and even Hosanna in the highest. In the name is coming in the name of the Lord. Verse 10, Ke iselthontas avtu is Jerusalema, and have of his entering into Jerusalem, esiste passa e polis. All the city was shaken, a polis, a metropolis, a large city, polis, city. Legus, a saying, tis estin utos. Who is this? Ide ocli elegon, and the multitude said, Utos estin Isus, o prophetis, o apo Nazareth. This is Jesus, the prophet from Nazareth. Prophetis, a prophet, is a direct transliteration. Tis Galileus, of Galilee. 12. Ke isilthan o Isus isto iaron to Theu. And Jesus entered into the temple of God. Now, this was not one small building. This was a huge complex. One area held 10 or 12,000 people in a courtyard. So just on top of the Temple Mount, covered a large area, many buildings and stoas or porticos, these long rows of columns with marble that they walked on, with a covering over it, and then they would go into the different parts of the temple. Finally, there was the Holy of Holies, and so he goes into this Temple Mount area, which is just humongous, built by Herod the Great. And what does he do? Ke exevale patus tus poluntas ke agorazontas into iero. This is the second time he has done this. First time is in John 2:15-17. You can read about it as at the beginning of his ministry. So he casts out all the ones selling and buying in the temple. Well, if we started doing that today, a lot of churches would be empty. There's so many of all the different types of churches, from the churches that are in South America with the cathedrals. I went to one in Brazil, and this huge cathedral, second largest in the world, had a it had a large mall right next to the cathedral. And you go into this mall, it had a McDonald's in Brazil, and then it had all these little stores selling all these little statues, idols, and the different types of beads and all kinds of different types of things, without getting into the detail. But it was huge amount of selling of items at this cathedral. And then I went to an evangelical church, and they had a large bookstore, and there was bookstores down the street that people could go to, but yet they put a bookstore in this large mega church down in Southern California, where they sold books and Christmas, all kinds of cards and trinkets and things. So they were just as guilty, actually. And then it was all about money. And I was in Greece, and the Eastern churches, they have their stores in the monastery where they sell icons and crosses and things like that. And then in the so-called Protestant churches, my mother went to one that was maybe 10 old people went to it, but yet the pastor was pulling down $50,000 a year. And when my mother passed away, they had a service, and he called up about a week later, and I thought, it was nice of him to call up and see how I'm doing. And so he's, how you doing? I said, okay. And he said, by the way, we haven't received a check yet for the organist. And my mother had been going to that church for, 25 years. And here they're worried about money for the organist. And this man was pulling down so much, his wife was working full time. So they're all guilty. It doesn't matter Jews, Christians, and it's all about money. So and then ketas trapezes ton coli viston catestripse. And the tables of the money changers he overturned. A trapeze, table is a translation. The table of the money changers, and people came in with money from all over the world, Roman money, and maybe from Libya and Mesopotamia. They would come in and they would exchange this money for money that was accepted in the temple. Sanctuary coins. So he turned the tables over of these money changers. Catestripse ketas cathedras ton polunton tas peristeras. And the chairs, a cathedral is a place where the royal chair is for the king or a monarch, head of a synagogue, the cathedras. The chair, a cathedral, the one selling the doves for the sacrifices. In verse 13, Ke legi avtis, and he says to them, Gegrapte, it is written, and this is in Psalms 118:26. Ekos mu, ekos prosevki klithisate. My house shall be called a house of prayer. Emiste avton epi isate speleon liston, but you made it a cave of robbers. Speleo is cave. People that go, spelunkers are the people that go into caves and check things out and go through them. Verse 14, Ke prosilthon avto holi, ke tifli into hiero, and came forward to him the lame and the blind in the temple. They've heard about him. So have the Pharisees, scribes, and the chief priests, but they're all coming to him. He's drawing all these people to him, the Lord, in his holy temple. Ke atherapevsen avtus, and he cured them. But it's too bad for the doubters. Now they weren't cured, and later this temple would be destroyed. Verse 15, Idontes they e archiaris ke e grammatis tathavmasia a epise. And the chief priests and the scribes, beholding the wonders which he did, Ketus pedas krazontas into iaro, ke legontas osana to io David, and the children crying out in the temple and saying, Hosanna to the Son of David, iganachtisan, they were indignant. Ke ipon avto, and they said to him, Akuis ti uti legusin? Do you hear what these say? O they sus legiavtis, Jesus says to them, Nay, uthepote anegnote oti? Yes, at no time did you read that extomatos nipion, ke thila zonton, katirtiso ainon? From out of the mouth of infants and nursing ones I readied praise. That's Psalms 8:2. These are all marked at the end, down at the bottom of the page. In verse 17, Ke katalipon avtus exilthan exo tis polios is vethanian. Ke ivlisti aki. So he leaves and goes to Bethany. We'll go to the map and see it up here. And Bethany is right over here. So right past the Mount of Olives, you get into Bethany. It's really close. So he leaves and he goes there and spends the night. And in the morning, this is the last day of the Lord in his ministry. After this, he is taken, arrested, and crucified. So this is his last day of the ministry. In verse 18, Proias they epanagon istin polin. And in the morning, turning back into the city, epinase, he hungered. It was in the morning, hungry. And 19, ke idon seeking mian epi tis odu, and beholding one fig tree upon the way, ilthan epafti, ke uden evron in afti, in the way, and he came unto it and found nothing on it, just as he is going to find in Jerusalem, nothing, no fruit. Imi phila monon, except leaves only. We have chlorophyll, the phyll, it has a green leaf. Monon, mono, only. Kelegi avti, and he says to it or her, Miketi ek su karpos genite iston eona. No longer from you should fruit be produced into the eon. Curses the tree. Ke exiranthi parakrima e siki. And immediately the fig tree was dried up. Now, how it happened immediately, if it, I think the other book, it mentions how they came back. So I don't think it was just all of a sudden wilted and right in front of them, but when they came back, it was dried up. Or given that in another place. Exiranthi, xerosis is a dryness of the skin, and this is exiranthi, is dried up. Keidontes imathite, and beholding the disciples ethavmasen marveled, legontes, saying, Pos parakrima exiranthi e siki. How did the fig tree immediately dry up? Apokrithis the o Isus ipanavtis. And answering, Jesus said to them, Amen, lego imi, amen, I say to you, ean echite pistin ke mi diakrithite, umonon toti sikis pisate. If you should have belief and should not examine, not only the thing of the fig tree shall you do, ala kan to orituto ipite, but even if to this mountain you should say, Arthiti, kevlithiti, istin thalason, be lifted and be thrown into the sea. Genisite, it will come to pass. As I mentioned before, the belief, showing right here that they don't have the belief. If he's saying if you had it, you could do these things, and they were unable to do it, and I'm not able to do it. And the belief I believe he's talking about is the belief that he had. And then he had the belief, and he went all the way through, did everything the Father said, and died and rose again. His belief is what delivers us. In 22, Ke panta osaan etisite enti prosevki pistevontes lipsiste. And all as much as you should have asked in prayer, believing, you shall receive. Again, the believing is the key to it. And there's things I've asked in prayer and that I believe. If they haven't been answered, it's a question you can answer for yourself. Or I can answer for myself. In verse 23, Ke elthonti afto isto iaron, and in his coming into the temple. Now he's coming back into this huge complex of the temple, Herod's temple, and the Temple Mount in Jerusalem. Thousands of people are in there sacrificing animals all over the place, or not all over the place, but the whole thing is all together where they're sacrificing. Everything comes together, and the people singing in there and throwing money at other places. The widow's mite story is at this time, and he sees her throwing the money and the other people throwing money into these brass trumpets, and so all this is going forward. And it says, "Prosilthon afto didaskonti e archiaris." In his coming into the temple, the chief priests came forward to him in his teaching. So he was teaching. Ke presbyteri tuleu, and the elders of the people. The Presbyterian is the derivative, not Presbyterians weren't the people, but it's a derivative English word. Legontes, saying, they're elders. Saying, legontes, in pia exousia tavta piis, by what authority do you do these things? A rabbi that was teaching on the Temple Mount, nobody went there and taught on the Temple Mount. unless you were a rabbi, and to become a rabbi, you had to go through all these strict examinations, and you just couldn't go out there and start doing what Jesus was doing. And he was kicking over all the money changers' booths and freeing the birds and all these things. He was doing things that probably nobody ever did. They'd throw him in jail right away. But he had behind him the knowledge of the people that he did all these miracles. So that was the thing that if they had never heard of the man, they might have arrested him. But Jesus had the people behind him, and he had his actions behind him. But these people come, and with what authority do you do these things? So, questioning it, and I suppose maybe they should. KTC edulcan tin exousian taftin. And who gave to you this authority? So they're answering, expecting an answer. And if he didn't have authority from anybody, then they would have something against him. And and who gave it to you? And what authority? And so they expecting an answer to catch him. Apokrithiste o Isus ipen aftis. In answering, Jesus said to them, Erotiso imas kago logon ena. I will ask you also one word. On ean ipite me, which if you should tell to me, kago imin ero in pia exousia tavta pio. I also will tell to you by what authority I do these things. I'll tell you if you answer first the first thing. Okay. To baptisma Ioannu, the immersion of John. John was considered a prophet, just like all the prophets that had come before. The people thought of him as a prophet. So this was a given. But the rulers didn't. The immersion of John, pothen in, from what place was it? Ex uranu, from out of heaven, ex anthropon, or from out of men. If it was from out of heaven, then and John was a prophet, and what was John doing? He was telling the people that Jesus was coming. The Messiah was coming. That's what his whole ministry was all about. So if he was a prophet, and they say he's a prophet, then why don't they believe that Jesus is the Messiah? Or was it from out of men? If it's from out of men and they're holding it, well, it answers that next. Oh, the logizon to par iaftis, and they argued by themselves. So they all go and huddle around their legonis, saying, "Oh, ian ipomen, if we should say ex orano, from out of the heaven, eri imin, he'll say to us, Diati un uke pestevsate afto. Why then did you not believe in him? And they ipomen, and if we should say ex anthropon, fovumetha ton oklon, we fear the multitude. Pantis gar echusi ton Ioannin os prophetin, for all hold John as a prophet. So they were, and what do they do? Ke apokrithentes, and answering, to Isu ipen, to Jesus they said, uk eithermen, we do not know. Ephi aftis, ke aftos, he said to them also himself, ude ego lego imin in pia exousia, tavta pio, nor I tell to you by what authority I do these things. So there it is, the stalemate. He doesn't tell and they can't tell. But then he continues to show their attitude and what it was like. Ti they imin thoki, what do you think? Anthropos tis ike tekna theo. A certain man had 2 children. Ke proselthon to proto, and having come forward to the first, ipen, he said, teknon ipage, child, go. Simeron orgazu into, go, today work in the Ampoloni mu, my vineyard. Go, look, work in the vineyard. Get going. Oh, the apokrithis ipen, and responding he said, Uthello, I don't want to, I will not. Easteron they, but afterwards metamelithis, having changed his mind, appealthen. He went forth. Okay, my dad wants me to do it. I better go do it. I don't want to do it, but I'll do it. Now, this is, later we see, relates to the harlots and the tax collectors, the people that are really they're not the believers, but then when Jesus has come, they changed their minds and they went after Jesus. But 30, ke proselthon to devtero epen osavtos, having come forward to the second devtero. We had Deuteronomy, the second book of the law. He said likewise, O they apokrythis epen, and he answering said, Ego, Kyrie, I will, O Master. Ke uk apilthe, and he did not go forth. The Jews, the rulers and the non-believers of this age, we'll do the will of the Lord, but they didn't when Jesus arrived. Tis ekton theo epise to thelema to patros, which from out of the two did the will of my Father. The epi, the pa, remember, it's a poet, 4160, that's the number one verb, to do, make, something like that. Theo, duo, and patros, paternal, the derivatives. Legusin afto, they say to him, o protos, the first, legiaftis o Isus, Jesus says to them, Amen. That's right. Lego imin, ote telone ke eporne proagusin imas istin vasilian to theu. Amen, I say to you that the tax collectors and the harlots go before you into the kingdom of God. They're going into the kingdom of God. And ilthe gar prosimas Ioannis, and although dikiasinis, for John came to you in the way of righteousness. Ke uk epistevsete, and you did not believe him. Avto. Ide telone ke eporne epistevsen avto. But the tax collectors and the porne, the harlots, pornography as a derivative, believed him. Emis they idontes, but you having seen, u metamelethite, isteron to pistevse avto, but you having seen repented not afterwards to believe him. Now he goes into the parable, a parable of the growers. And this parable is very much tied in to the first part of the 5th chapter of Isaiah. I'll read it to you, a little bit of it here. I will sing indeed to the one being loved of me a song of my beloved concerning his vineyard. A vineyard became to the one being loved on a horn in a plentiful place. A high place is a horn. And I put a barrier around it and built a palisade and planted a grapevine, a choice vine. And I built a tower in the midst of it and dug a winepress in it and waited for it to produce the grape. And it produced thorn bushes. And now, ones dwelling in Jerusalem and man of Judah, judge then between me and my vineyard. What shall I do still to my vineyard that I did not do to it? For I waited for it to produce a grape, but it produced thorn bushes. Now then, I will announce to you what I will do to my vineyard. I will remove its barrier, and it will be for ravaging, and I will demolish its wall, and it will be for trampling. And I will forsake my vineyard, for in no way should it be pruned, neither shall it be dug. And the thorn bush shall ascend into it as an uncultivated land. And it goes on and on. You can read that, the 5th chapter. There's more to it. So this happened before, and Israel was taken away. And these people knew what he's talking about. They knew very well that the end is being predicted here. In verse 33, Alim paravolin akusate, another parable here. anthropos tis in ikodespotis, ostis ephitevsen ampolona ke phragmon avto periethica. A certain man was master of a house, God, who planted a vineyard, Israel, and put around a barrier to it, the country. Ke orixen in avto linon, and dug in it a wine vat. Ke okodomise pyrgon, the Temple Mount. Ke edek exedote avton Georgis, and he handed it over to growers, ke apathemisen, and traveled abroad. George, Georgis, a grower means, George means a grower. Somebody that's growing here grapes and other things. Ote the igisen, okeros ton carpon, and when the season of the fruits approached, a pestilent tus doulos avtu pros tus georgus, lavin tus carpus avtu. He sent his bondmen to the growers to receive of his fruits. He got a percentage of this, and and they work and they give him a percentage. And they agreed to it, and to not do it is stealing. And so he sent bondmen, that's the prophets, and the growers are, of course, the Jews. Ke lavontas I Georgi tus doulos avtu, and the growers having taken his bondmen, the prophets, O men edhiran, they flayed, on they apektinon, and one they killed, on they elithovolison, and one they stoned. So the fathers of these men here have done this, and this is being brought out in this parable by the Lord. Paulin epestilin alus doulos pleonas ton proton, and he sent other bondmen more than the first, more prophets. Ke epis and aftis osavtos, and they did to them likewise. And poor Jeremiah was pushed down into some type of a horrible cesspool of some sort and stayed there. Istron they apestilin prosavtus ton ionavtu. And afterwards he sent to them his son. He's really being lenient with them. He's sending these people. He should have just sent the army and wiped them out. He could have, but he didn't. He was very, very lenient to these people. Over thousands of years, the leniency of God towards Israel and the Jews is amazing. If there's any anti-Semitic book in the world, it's the Bible, because these people, God was going to destroy them. I'm going to get rid of them completely, wipe them off the face of the earth, and Moses, I'll start up a whole new people with you. But Moses asked God not to do that. And so he's very lenient. Now, after being taken, the kings failed, and they were taken Nebuchadnezzar took them to Babylon, but yet he still brought them back to Israel, put them in to the city. And they said, Entrapisonte ton ion mu. They will respect my son, Jesus, the Father. Ide Georgi idontis ton ion, and the growers, seeing the son, ipon iaftis, said into themselves, Utos esteno kleronomos. This is the heir. Devte apokatinomen avton, ke kataskomen tin kleronomian avtu. Come, we should kill him and take control of his inheritance. Forget God. We're going to take over and do what we want. We're the clergy, and we're going to get rid of this Jesus. And that's basically what they're planning right here. They're planning it in their minds as he's speaking. Ke lavontes exevelin avton, and having taken him, they cast him. This is the growers going back to them. Exo tin ampelonos, outside the vineyard, ke apektinan, and they killed Jesus outside on Golgotha. Oten un elthi o kyrios to ampelonos, whenever the master of the vineyard shall come, tipisitis georgi sikinis. What will he do to those growers? Wow, what will he do to them? Legusin avto. Kakos apolasi avtus, the evil men, harshly he will destroy them. He did, destroyed them, took them out of Israel for 2,000 years. Keton Apollona ekdosate alis Georgis, etinis apodosousin avto tus carpus intis kairis avton. And the vineyard he will hand over to other growers, to the people that believed in Jesus, Christians, who will render to him the fruits in their seasons. And they will now do the work of God. Christians have been. But Israel is back as a nation, and Paul mentions how the time of the Gentiles, the time of the nations, the ethnos, will come to an end. And Israel will become strong again. And I look at today and I see a lot of Christianity is failing, but Israel is back again after 2,000 years. God still has mercy on them. Legi aftis o Isus, Jesus says to them, Uthepote anegnote intes graphes. At no time did you read in the scriptures, and this is Psalms 118, 22-23. Lithon, the stone, lithography, writing on hard surface. The stone on apadokimasan e ikodomuntas, the ones building rejected. Utos agenithi is kephalin gonias. This one became as head cornerstone, which Jesus became the head cornerstone. Jesus is the head cornerstone. Parakiriu ageneto avti, by the Lord this happened, ke esti thavmasti in aphthalmi Simon. And it is wonderful in our eyes, the eyes of the people that want to see this. Via tuto legoimin, on account of this I say to you, oti arthisate afimon evasilia to theou. The kingdom of God shall be lifted away from you, these people, Israel, the rulers of Israel. Ke dothisate ethni piunti tus carpus avtis, and shall be given to a nation producing the fruits of it. And it's happened 70 years later. Jerusalem was destroyed by the Romans. Ke o peson epi ton lithon tuton synthlasthesate. This is a little difficult one here to understand. I'm not quite sure I have it all, but maybe not. And the one falling upon this stone shall be fractured in pieces. Now that part, I think, is pretty easy. That's the Jews that fell over the stone. They didn't see it. They couldn't understand it. And then he goes, Ephon they on pesi likmisi avton, but whomever it should fall upon, it shall winnow him. Some people continue this as like still with the Jews, and if they get in the way, then God's still going to winnow them. But I look at this as that if you allow the stone, Jesus, to fall on top of you, then it's going to winnow you. If you believe in him, winnow is blowing the sins and the chaff away. And you'll be, it's a cleansing. I don't see it, or some other people may say it's a continuation of how bad they're going to do it with the Jews. But whomever it should fall. So it could be the Jews. A lot of the earliest Christians, they're all Jews. So they did believe, and so it fell on them, and they were winnowed and became believers and produce the fruit. Ke akusantes e archiaris ke pharisei tas paravolas avtu, and the chief priests and the Pharisees, hearing the parables, or his parables, egnos and oti peri avton legi, knew that about them he speaks, because they knew Isaiah 5. Ke zituntes avton kratise, and seeking to hold him, Ephovithison tus oklus, they feared the multitudes. Epi thee, since os prophetin avton ekon, since they held him as a prophet. So they allowed him this all to take place. And then he continues with the parables, and we'll be getting the next one in chapter 22, and I hope you'll join us, and God bless.